Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm bringing you my overview for the fourth wave of Masters of the Universe Origins. As you can see, this isn't a very big wave, so this overview shouldn't be very long. And Origins wave number 4 consisted of your core figures. You have the Evil Warriors Tri-Klops and Ninjor. You also have the nefarious leader of the Horde, Hordak, oh so cleverly named. And then we have our one Heroic Warrior for this wave, Stratos. Then beyond the core assortment, further fleshing this out, we have our Flocked Panthor, which is a Walmart exclusive here in the US and is virtually identical to the standard Wave 3 Panthor, but with the added flocking to put him more in line with the vintage toy. And then we get our vehicle, the Land Shark. Now, the Land Shark could arguably be considered Wave 3 based on the cross-sells on that box. And if it is, that would make Wave 3 even more ridiculously huge than it already was. I mean, that was the wave that had Castle Grayskull in it. So if you consider it Wave 3, you know, you're probably right, honestly. I put it in Wave 4 because I've been doing these retrospectives based off an online list I found, but the list could be inaccurate. But for our purposes of this video, this is what we're covering today. So the core figures, Stratos, just to kind of give you guys an overview of everything. He's fairly simple. He has the Beastman body type with a new head and some new winged armor and a jetpack. And overall, you know, he's a fairly solid toy. No weapons or anything. All of his stuff comes purely, you know, fleshing out his ability to fly. My copy, as you saw in the review, is a little jiggly at the waist for some reason. It doesn't, like, spin freely, but it's just got this give, like, side to side. Very odd, but doesn't really hurt the toy in any way. He's otherwise quite solid. Hordak here is interesting because he is the first toy released as part of the Horde faction, so it's fitting, you know, the leader be released first. And he is very cool and very dangerous looking. He has this, you know, odd thing where his little cowl or crown, whatever you call it, moves with his head just because of the way it's built. And that was, you know, the same for the vintage toy too, so it's nothing new. Gets his little freaky gargoyle companion that's really just like a bracelet, functionally. Gets his crossbow, which, while I think it's cool, I think functionally it's kind of silly, right? Like, you push it in, it latches, you push the thing, and it just, like, pops out a little bit. Like, it's alright, but kind of ugly. Be better if it was some kind of silver color rather than white. But he is a very cool, intimidating looking character. He's got his cool cape, and I like Hordak. And, you know, my copy's pretty solid. Then we get to Ninjor. Now, Ninjor, I kind of made fun of him because he's, like, just a super basic looking ninja, and he is. He is just straight up a ninja. Very stereotypical, you know, pop culture icon. But he comes loaded out with lots of weapons, which is what makes him very cool, right? He has his katana, he's got his nunchucks, and he's got this cool compound bow, and he can store all of them. Not all at the same time, but between his hands and his storage, he can always have them all equipped in some way. Now, my copy, like Stratos, has this weird jiggling waist thing going on, but he also has pretty weak knees. And that's an issue I have with this particular figure, where he wants to kind of lean back and fall back a bit. Now, hopefully, that's not, you know, any kind of universal thing, and I just, you know, got one with, you know, some weak knee joints, which does happen. You know, happens in He-Man, happens in Transformers, happens in all sorts of toy lines. In fact, if at some point he falls backwards in this video, don't be surprised. Or Hordak might fall forward. Haha. Defying expectations. Thought one thing, got another. Alright, so before I knock anything else over, let's go ahead to probably my favorite core figure in this wave, and this is Tri-Klops. Tri-Klops to me is just very cool. Functionally, he's just a He-Man head swap. Like, his body is exactly just the He-Man body. He does have a new vest piece, which is cool, and he has this really cool looking sword. But the thing that makes him really neat is his eye swapping gimmick, because you can spin it around to 3 different expressions. You got like neutral, angry, super mad bro, with possibly pink eye, I'm not sure. I don't know, like, he is simple, but he's also very cool because his gimmick just does something a little different, right? None of the characters released so far. There he goes. Actually fell forward too, though. Go figure. I'm expecting him to, you know, do a backflip on me, and everything's falling forward. But yeah, Tri-Klops to me, just really cool, and I think he just looks the cleanest too. I like the way his colors are just very well broken up. You can see mine actually has a little bit of paint scratched off there on the belt where you can see the black shining through, but Oh well, not a big deal. There he goes. He just does not want to play ball, does he? This guy's going to be really fun keeping on a shelf and having to like pick him up every time somebody stomps through the house too hard. I really hope you guys got luckier than I did with Ninjor, because boy are his knees bad. In fact, I'm just going to make him like sit out. Tired of playing these games with you, Ninjor. You're just going to lean back. Here you go, buddy. All right, well, while I'm playing with his vehicle, let's go ahead and talk about the Landshark. So the Landshark, you know, I said in its review that it's kind of, it is what it is. It's a very basic 80s style toy vehicle. And it has, you know, the cannons that go up and down, knocks Hordak over. They're kind of cool. They ratchet around a little bit. I can't believe I'm filming this. I'm doing it, though. I'm committed. You guys are getting this. Toys get knocked over and all. All right. And then the other cool thing, I'll have to look down a little, whoop, is that while it rolls, the mouth opens and closes. Really, you know, playing up to that shark motif. So really neat. And it functions well, does what it's supposed to do. It's an enjoyable little vehicle. Not my favorite vehicle out there. It's not as cool as something like Stridor or something, but it's all right. And then Panthor. Panthor, I mean, if you've messed with any of the other cat mounts, you really already know what to expect. Has all the same posability and lack thereof, which basically means all the posability on him is fantastic, except for the fact that his ankles don't pose at all, which makes a lot of his leg posability kind of pointless, because if he can't stand flush on his feet, what's the point of repositioning his legs? All the other posability is great, though. You know, you got the head that goes up and down and rotates, opening mouth, the tail's on a hinge and a ball joint, like really good stuff. I still think that the Panthors should have come with that like horn helmet that the character has since picked up since the original. Yes, I know the original didn't have it, but why not include it as just like a little goodie? He costs the same as Battle Cat, despite the fact that Battle Cat has war accessories. Now, when I say he costs the same, I mean the standard version. This one's a little more expensive, but still, you know, it's already all there. I don't see why they couldn't have just included that as a nice little bonus. I think it would have really made the toy shine. But for what we get, he is good. I think he's overpriced. I still don't think that flocking the toy should nearly like double his cost, but it is Walmart, and they do like to charge a lot for like vintage exclusives. If you need proof, just look at any of the Generation 1 or Beast Wars reissues for Transformers. Those things are ridiculously overpriced for the most part. And yeah, that covers the whole wave right there. So my thoughts on this wave as a whole, I think it's got a lot of really cool stuff in it. It's got a lot of your, you know, kind of A-tier characters in the form of Tri-Klops and Hordak. Stratos I consider kind of B-tier. You know, he's a somewhat frequent guest character. Ninjor, he doesn't pop up too much. I'd probably put him as like a C-list character, just because he's probably not as well known as these other guys. Then, of course, we get a vehicle, and an evil vehicle, too. So far, your evil guys have been a little short when it comes to mounts and vehicles and stuff. So I think it is good to, you know, get more out there. And then speaking of mounts, we get our Panthor, which, again, easily the superior version. Still overpriced, but it is better than the standard plastic one. Like, everything from the flocking, the colors. I just think this is, you know, the one to get if you had to pick one. So, while this wave isn't maybe on the level of Wave 3, which just really blew all expectations out of the water compared to the first two waves, Wave 3 was a big one. It had a lot of stuff going on. I mean, that was the wave where, you know, we got our first playset. We also got She-Ra out of the blue, who was never originally a MOTU character anyway, at least, you know, not as far as the toy line is concerned. And we also got a whole bunch of stuff. That was our introduction to deluxe figures, which this wave, you may or may not consider this wave to have deluxes. Some people have argued that Clamp Champ and Ram Man were supposed to be Wave 4 figures. I personally consider them Wave 3 figures just because they did release with the same mini-comic as your Battle Armor, He-Man, and Skeletor, and they had the same cross-sells. So that's just where I put them. Again, it's all really arbitrary, but I just needed some way to group everything. If you think Clamp Champ and Ram Man are part of Wave 4, cool. If you think the Landshark's part of Wave 3, cool. Just take my feelings on those individual figures and kind of swap them around in different waves, and you'll get a good idea of how I would feel about that entire hypothetical wave. As far as this wave, I like it. I like the selection of characters we get, QC issues notwithstanding. Again, I'm just going to assume that these are my copies specifically, because we've gotten, much later figures that are still recycling all these parts, and I haven't had issues with those, so I think I just got some bad copies. I think the Flock Panthor is very cool, and if I had obtained this before getting the Wave 3 one, I may have not even bothered getting the plastic fur version. For me, this is just the one that does it as far as, getting that vintage and retro feeling. And I think the Landshark's very cool. It is simple. It's not the most exciting vehicle out there, but aesthetically, it does blend in really well with your evil warriors, and it does help flesh out their army so that they're not all just, foot soldiers. They actually have some sort of a, cavalry going on there. And right there, I think I've pretty much covered everything I want to say about this wave. I've enjoyed it. I think if you guys, are still trying to collect a back catalog of these toys, a lot of these are worth picking up, especially if they have better QC than some of my figures. And I think there's a lot of cool and interesting stuff going on here that a lot of people that enjoy Masters of the Universe can appreciate. Of course, that is just my take on this wave. Now I want to know what you all thought of Wave 4. Was this one considered a highlight for you? Did you enjoy the contents of it? Or did you find it to be more of a dud? Either you don't like the character selection, the vehicles, or maybe it's just too small. Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the entire fourth wave of Masters of the Universe Origins. And with all that said, I will see you next time.